Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Kelly Lamb. Welcome, bienvenue, and willkommen to our home at Miele. As many of you are also in your home, we want to make sure that we continue to deliver the services that you expect from Miele, whether it's about products that you have in your home, whether you're interested in learning more about some of our products and are considering buying some new products, or many of you have questions about the services that we currently offer in this current situation we're all in. We're here at Miele Live to answer these questions for you. We're going to cover a vast variety of topics. Earlier today, we discussed Miele wine storage. We also covered an in-depth session on Miele coffee machines. Next week, we'll have sessions on Miele dishwashers as well as Miele laundry systems. So it'll cover a wide variety. I also want to send a special welcome to guests and customers of some of our key retailer partners who are supporting this initiative with Miele Live. I want to thank from out west in Vancouver, Baker's Appliances, Avenue Appliances, Jerome Appliances, Midland Appliances, our partners at Trail Appliances. Here in the GTA, Ontario, we have Appliance Canada, we have Tasco Appliances, Goman's Appliances, and we also have Creative Appliances out in Ottawa. We want to welcome guests from our retail partners to this session at Miele Live. Pour ceux d'entre vous qui ont demandé pour des sessions en français, on travaille actuellement d'avoir des sessions pour vous dans les semaines qui viennent. Miele Live is fully interactive. If you're logged in and watching us through your YouTube account, be sure to leave a comment in the comment section. If you're watching us on Miele Live, be sure to register and you can leave comments for us there. We'll try to get to as many of the questions as possible, but if we are unable to answer them live as we're during the session, we'll answer them via the comment section, or if your question is a little more detailed, we will be sure to answer you via email. The smell in here is fantastic, and as we all head into the weekend, many of us will be at home, as everybody has been, doing a lot more cooking and specifically baking. So the aromas I smell in here are freshly baked breads, and that's what we're going to cover off today. I'm really excited to have our product expert, Marilyn, with us. Hi, Marilyn.
Hello, Kelly.
I think everybody loves fresh baked breads.
Yes.
So what are you going to show us today?
Well, I thought we always get questions about bread making, and I thought, why not make an Italian loaf? And then I'm also going to make a jalapeno cheddar loaf as well.
Great.
So,
why don't we start with the Italian loaf?
Yes, that sounds good. And because of the interest of time, I've gone ahead. You're going to see some processes that have already gone ahead because I wanted to show our viewers at what stage certain settings after the proofing has been done. Mm-hmm. So let's start now. So in your mixing bowl, what you want to do is I have 4 3/4 cups and 3 tablespoons of bread flour. So I've already put it into my mixer right now, and then in that, I'm actually going to add a cup of very extra fine semolina flour.
Semolina, okay.
Yeah, so I'm just going to actually add that into my mixing bowl. And then I'm going to add 1 tablespoon of sugar, 1 tablespoon of salt, and then 1 tablespoon of active yeast. So before I put my paddle on, I just like to give it a little bit of a mix.
And I know, Marilyn, even for us, it was a challenge to get some of these ingredients to do this class, because flour also is not that easy to find right now. But
exactly. Yes, that was really a challenge to do this, but we persevered because we wanted to show our viewers the bread making. So what I'm actually doing right now is just I'm incorporating all of the dry ingredients that I've just added to the mixing bowl. And what I'm going to do now is I have 2 cups of lukewarm water. And I'm just going to pour that into the mixing bowl slowly, because I just want to incorporate that right now.
And is that water, Marilyn, at room temperature? Is it ice cold water?
No, it's just lukewarm right now. So,
because there is yeast in there,
yes,
active yeast in there as well.
Exactly. And then I'm actually also just pouring in very slowly a quarter cup of, a quarter cup of olive oil. That will give it that nice smell as well while it's cooking. So while this is, it's just incorporated a little bit because I don't want it all the way. What I'm going to actually do is I'm going to just change this. Just give me 1 second.
So you're going to change the attachment now over to the dough hook?
The dough hook. So I just, because I mixed up the way I wanted to get it done. And then trying to look at this upside down here. That's it. And then I'm just going to now knead this for approximately between 8 to 10 minutes. You want to incorporate this together. The kneading is really good because it allows the air pockets to go into the dough when it's mixing. So let's just say that we've been mixing this for 10 minutes.
Obviously, in the interest in time, we need to make sure that Marilyn has gone through the various steps, but you would, again, need that for 10 minutes.
Right. And then I'm actually going to be moving over a little bit here.
So social distancing,
Yes.
I'm going to let you come over. I'm going to step away.
All right. So after I've mixed that for approximately 8 to 10 minutes, what I do is I roll it over onto a counter with just a light dusting of flour, and I'm going to proof the bread for an hour and a half. So I wanted to just still keep this covered so it doesn't dry. But this is after an hour and a half that it's been proofing. Now I did this in the oven, and I just set it in there, programmed it for an hour and a half, and after that time, this is what we get.
So Marilyn, could you maybe just show us the proofing setting
Sure.
in the oven?
So I just turn this on, and then I'm going to go to...
and this is our 30-inch MasterChef
right.
M-Touch
Mm-hmm.
convection oven.
Right. So let me just go back quickly here. So I just pressed special modes, and then I selected proof. When I do the proof, then you can see where it says hours and minutes here. So I literally did 1 hour and a half. Now I can also just press that little, today will not work, oh, there it is. So that's 1 hour and 30 minutes, and I'm going to press OK. And what this does now is that it'll tell you to place the food into the oven. Sorry, I'm just going to redo this. My fingers are too fast on here. Oh, yeah. So it says leave dough in oven until it has doubled in size, which this clearly has doubled in size when we put it on. So when you're just pressing OK, it'll say put food in the oven, shelf level 2. It's going to actually go through the steps with you, and you'll press OK. And then that's the proofing now. And you leave it. You don't touch it. You just wait until it beeps. And then what this actually does is it has a controlled temperature setting, like environment in here. So you don't have to worry about if you left it out on the counter, if there's a door that's open, there's that breeze. It's a constant temperature that you would have inside of your oven.
So that's why we sometimes, well, actually, we do see better proofing results in regards to proofing it in the oven.
Yes.
Given that it's a very controlled and stable temperature environment, there's no variance.
Exactly, exactly.
Marilyn, can you maybe just, so obviously we just talked about this is our 30-inch convection M-Touch oven.
Yes.
Does the proofing feature come in any of our other ovens?
Yes, it does come in our steam combi unit, And again, I'm just going to go to this side right here. And I can just go to special modes. And as soon as I scroll through, there's proof. And again, you just set your time and then you leave it to go.
Okay.
So that is, again, your oven, a smaller oven, you can still do proofing in there. You can still bake your bread as well in there. So it's a great option to have actually on there. So once, we'll just kind of go back to the bread because I just want the stages on here. So once I have this out, you can see it's very soft and it's pliable as well that you can do this. So your next step really is that you would turn this onto a floured counter, and then you would divide the dough in half. So let's just say that I did divide it in half. And you shape it into loaf pans. So once I divide it in half and I've shaped it into the loaf pans, basically you let it rest now for another 20 minutes. Once you let it rest for 20 minutes, it's going to come out because you can see as well it's proofed, and I did that in the oven as well for 20 minutes. I'm literally now going to just take this over here because my final step after it has been proofed is that you just, oh, no, that's not my final step. You have to score the bread 3 times. So you cut it on the diagonal, just 3 times. If your bread is longer, then you would have a couple more slits that you would have on here. And then we're just going to brush this. Just have plain water on here. As soon as you do one, just sprinkle it with some sesame seeds. And then I'm just going to do my second one. The one thing I have to tell you is that when you are shaping your loaf, you want to keep it as even as possible, because if you bake bread at home and you create different shapes with it, how it proofs and once you put it in the oven, that's the way it's going to come out. So if I had a big knot on the side here that I didn't shape this bread properly, after my baking is done, I would see that and it wouldn't look like an Italian loaf. It would look like some other kind of loaf. I'm not too sure yet, but it would just be a funny looking loaf. So once this is done, very simple, I'm going to actually take it over to our 30-inch oven, and I'm going to press the Gourmet Center MasterChef Plus. So the Plus, what that does is that it gives you a lot of different options, and especially with our bread, it actually, if I press into the bread, I can select from baguettes, brioche, I've got French bread, Italian bread, multigrain bread, all the way through whole wheat bread as well. And since we're doing Italian bread, I'm just going to press that. It's saying if I want to evaporate residual moisture, I'm just going to skip that right now. And then it's telling me how dark do I want the bread, like for the browning when it comes out. The setting that it's at, I'm comfortable with that, so I'm going to press OK. It says use the rack with the universal tray. In my case, I use the perforated tray, and I say OK. Just thinking for a second. Then it's going to say place food in oven. So I'm just going to open that up. And it's saying shelf level 2. So shelf level 2, I'm pressing OK, closing the door. And so this is a really good point that I wanted to show here. So once I close the door, it's telling me 49 minutes, but it's saying that there's a proofing phase in here. And what that does is that it gives the bread another proofing that goes on while it's going to be baking the bread. So it does that in the beginning. So you'll have some steam that will be activated inside the oven. So if these breads that you looked at thought they're not small, they're going to actually expand quite a bit more with this proofing. And then it's going to, once that's done, it will start the baking process. So this is my bread that I made earlier today, just to show you. That's a loaf right here.
And Marilyn, when using the automated programs, the MasterChef Plus programs you're showing,
Yes.
for these specific ones, these are actually based on Miele developed recipes for these specific breads that are actually
Yes.
in here.
Exactly.
So if you have your own recipe, you will have to do a bit of experimenting to find the right settings specifically for you. But if you want to give it a try and you want to try out the MasterChef programs, then you can actually go ahead and get our recipes and actually try the automated programs for that.
Right. So I just want to grab my bread knife, or Kelly, are you able to just grab it from there? Oh, actually, thank you very much, Marco, for doing that, our camera guy. So I'm just going to cut into this bread just to show you what it
You want
looks
to
like.
tap the crust a little bit, Marilyn? Because I
So
think
when
that was
you're baking bread, definitely underneath, you want to tap it and hear a hollow sound in there. So hopefully you could hear that. And then look at the coloring on the top basically of the bread, and it's even. And I think I'm ready to cut into this. And with taking it out earlier as well, it's allowed the bread to rest a bit.
Yeah.
And can you hear that?
You can hear that. Fantastic.
And that's what we want. We want that crusty sound of the bread in here. And then on the inside, it's just so nice on here. So any of you, I want to just say is that if you are nervous about trying our programs, please let us know what you're trying. If you've tried something that hasn't worked really well, then send us an email, and then we will actually get the recipe to you as well, which will be good, and then you can execute, because we have so many different programs in there that you might have thought, oh, I have a baguette and I have a whole wheat bread. Maybe something's not happening. It's because these have been designed from the recipes that we have that's been made for us from Germany. So we do follow certain recipes that are available.
Right. But it doesn't mean at all that you can't do your own recipes. We encourage that.
Yeah.
Again, it may just take a little bit of experimenting and timing, amount of moisture going in. Marilyn, why don't we take one question?
Sure.
Because there are actually many, and we're going to try to get to, I see questions coming in from Martin and George and Susan. We had a question earlier about a sourdough recipe and function within the ovens themselves.
Right.
I believe the question originally came from Anna about the MasterChef Plus or MasterChef program for sourdough.
Right.
And I believe Anna had the DGC, the combi steam oven specifically. Was it? Maybe it wasn't Anna that asked the question about the sourdough. There's a question about the sourdough recipe.
Yes.
It's from Sarah. Sorry, Sarah. I have a combo steam oven with multiple settings for breads, but none for sourdough. So, what setting should I use for sourdough? Marilyn, I know with our 30-inch oven,
Yes.
we have on the M-Touch.
Yes.
We have the MasterChef Plus program for sourdough.
Right.
Unfortunately, the MasterChef Plus doesn't exist in our our combi steam oven.
Right.
So Sarah, what we will do there is we will actually pull the settings and the recipe from the MasterChef Plus in our 30-inch oven, and we'll be able to give you all of that information so that you can manually then set the programming for that recipe in your combi steam oven.
That would be the best way of doing it, because everything is built in automatically. We don't get to see what temperature it's set at, what proofing that it's going through. So definitely sending the recipe would be a great idea for that.
Great. Yep. There was another question about sourdough, so we might as well try to answer that question now. Anna, I think we remember you from previous sessions, so welcome back and thanks for joining us. Can you use the same proofing feature when making a sourdough starter as well?
Yes, you can actually. Because once you put it in for however the length of time maybe that your recipe might have, you'll just go into proofing and then set your time. Because it is a very low temperature, but controlled once again.
And I know, Sarah, Anna, you're specifically asking because a starter for sourdough is different than any other bread program. So again, we will be able to send you that same recipe that we use, which includes the proofing process for a sourdough starter. from our 30-inch Oven MasterChef Plus sourdough recipe, we'll be able to send you the starter recipe as well and how to manage that. So we'll be able to send that. So Marilyn, I'm going to let you squeeze back over here and start the next recipe as time is going very, very quickly.
Sure. Okay. So let me just quickly put this over here. Sorry. All right, so for my the next recipe that I have, this is for the jalapeno cheese bread. Now this is completely a different bread than the Italian. The Italian is light and crusty on the outside, but the jalapeno cheddar, sorry, I just remembered something. And I'm also needing my jalapeno. Sorry, give me 1 second.
We'll get that for you, Marilyn.
Thank you. It's in the fridge. Yeah. So what I'm going to do here is that I want to get, what did Kelly do here? Okay. I'm going to need my mixer because, could you give me 2 seconds? Marco, could you reach for my mixer, please? Thank you. Thank you very much. So in the actual bowl, I have 5 cups of unbleached all-purpose flour. So this one is not the bread flour that we're using. Again, it's a more dense recipe, a bread that's on here. So I'm just going to just hook this on here. And then what I'm going to do is I went ahead because I needed to have the yeast actually proof. So it was basically we needed to have 2 cups of hot water. And then I needed 3/4 of a tablespoon for the yeast. And I also needed 1 teaspoon of sugar. So it asks for 2 teaspoons in the ingredients, but what you're going to do is you'll split it off. So you're just going to do 1 teaspoon of sugar and then 1 tablespoon of the 3/4 of a tablespoon of the yeast. And what you want to do is put in the hot water, and then you want it to sit for the 10 minutes until it gets foamy and also like a milky color that's on the inside. So now that that is done, what I want to do is, I'm just going to reach in here. I want to add all my dry ingredients into the mixer first. So before I put my paddle on, let me just do that. I am going to add the other tablespoon of sugar. I'm also going to add 2 tablespoons of salt. And then I'm going to add my cheddar cheese, which is 9 ounces of cheddar cheese. And also 4 ounces of jalapeno. So what you want to do with this right now is that you want to mix this because you want to make sure that the jalapeno and the cheddar cheese is coated with the flour. So I'm just going to put this very light because I don't want flour jumping all over the place, which is great. So while this is actually mixing in there, and I can see that the flour and is coating the cheddar cheese and also the jalapeno. One thing that you'll notice that I didn't put in, and that was the garlic powder, because the garlic powder, you want to add it at the end when we've incorporated the liquids in here, so that, and it's also for taste. I said 3 tablespoons of garlic powder, but if you would like less than that, you can add that afterwards.
And Marilyn, cheese, can I substitute that with, if I don't want cheddar and I want to do like a,
absolutely,
another type of hard cheese?
Yep, any hard cheese that you can put in here is fine, actually.
Okay.
So once, let me just make sure that you can see that under the camera as well, is that the coating is it's all been incorporated in here, and it's just lightly, well, it's coated on the inside. And then what I'm going to do, I'm going to actually mix this. I'm going to change the hook now, and I'm going to add my yeast mixture and also the olive oil together. So let me just put this together, just like that. And now before I actually, I should actually just change this right now. I'm gonna just put
And
my
again,
dough
Marilyn,
hook.
this is one of the specific recipes out of the MasterChef Plus
Yes.
programs that Miele offers.
Yes.
Is this recipe.
Okay. So now that I've changed the attachment, what I'm going to do is I'm going to pour this slowly into the mixer because I want to incorporate all this.
And again, is that warm water or room temperature water?
This was just hot, not boiling.
Okay.
So just hot water that I poured in here. I have measured in here the 2 cups, and then I added the yeast as well as the sugar. Okay, so it's going to be sticky at the beginning because it's mixing that in with the dough hook.
So people don't have to worry about that.
No, exactly.
That's a little stickier.
No, it doesn't have to worry about it being sticky on there. And then, so I'm going to make sure that it's incorporated usually about 5 minutes, but during the last minute is when I want to actually add my the garlic salt. So I'm actually, if we were at about 4 minutes right now, I'm just going to add this in here slowly. Just like that. Now I would just let this mixing completely. Once I have actually completed the whole mixing on here, what you're going to find is that it's still going to be a little bit sticky when you take it out. So and maybe what I can do is just by showing you that, you can actually see how it's pulling away, but it's not really thick or anything, so it's very, I guess, light at the beginning when you're mixing it. But once this is all mixed now, what we're going to do is I would actually directly put this into a oiled bowl, or you can actually put it on the tray to put it proofing in the oven. I just wanted to show 2 different ways of actually proofing. So I did put this into an actually greased bowl, and I let it rise for 1 hour.
So this one we actually didn't do using the oven to proof.
No, I just wanted to do this separately. So after it's proofed for an hour, it's not a dough that's actually going to rise just as much as what you saw for the Italian bread, being a little bit different, because this is much more dense. There's, I call it heartier ingredients that have actually gone into the bread. So once I've done that, I'm actually going to, oh, I made my mistake. Okay. I'm actually going to, what I'm going to do here is that I have now shaped this, sprayed the bowl on the inside, and then I have, it's all ready to go, but you have to let it sit again for another hour. Once it sits for another hour, you can choose to put cheese on there if you'd like, or leave it plain. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to actually program this into our unit right here. And I'm actually going to go into, once again, the Gourmet Center, MasterChef Plus, pressing bread. And I'm going to scroll through, and right at the beginning here, it just says right there, jalapeno cheese bread. So I'm going to select that. I'm going to skip the residual moisture. And now setting, it's telling me how dark do you want it. I'm going to actually leave it to the setting that it came with it. I'm going to say OK. It says use the rack, so that's fine. I will use it on a rack. But it is in loaf pans as well. So place the food on the rack. I'm just going to place those 2. I'm going to press OK. And now what I love about the oven as well is that with this one, it doesn't have to do a proofing because, as I mentioned to you, it's much more of a dense bread. So it doesn't have to do that. So what it's going to do right now, it's saying it's got about 55 minutes. What I do like is that it'll say on here when it's set to go is do not open the door. That's really good.
Because everybody's so tempted to open the door and release the heat.
Exactly.
And moisture in this case.
Exactly. So by doing that, because a couple of times, you know what, and my kids as well, they kind of come together and they look in, and then they're just about to open the door, and then if they see do not open the door, which is great, I think this, I mean, sometimes I get tempted that I want to peek, so they don't do that. So I already went ahead because this is going to take about 55 minutes for this to cook. So I wanted to show you, I took this out earlier, and why it looks darker now, because the other one I didn't put cheese on top, but this one I put cheese on it just to show you that depending how much cheese you want or how little cheese that you want, it will change it, because as it's baking, it's browning it as well. So I thought since the last one, since this one has cheese, the one in the oven, I haven't put any cheese on it. So why don't we give this an actual...
Let's have a look at the bottom again.
Yes, again, it's... See? And again, listen to the sound of this because it's going to be much more dense.
Yep.
Right? But it's still crusty on the outside as well. And on this one, I'm going to actually slice it. You can hear that crustiness on here.
You can smell it, actually.
Yes. Right? And with it resting as well, it cooks everything in there. Some of that little moisture that you may see is in there. That's from the naturalness of the cheese, because the cheese is a little bit oily, greasy in there. But to have...
And Marilyn, as you're cutting, I'm just going to answer a question. So MNWC Front Desk, who we do remember from previous sessions, so welcome back. The question is, are you using old or medium cheddar? So in this particular case, we actually used an old cheddar for two reasons. But you can use a medium cheddar, it's no problem. We just find that with the jalapeno, a stronger cheddar flavor counterbalances a bit of the spiciness from the jalapeno. And an older cheddar is a bit drier, less moisture than a medium cheddar. But again, that's your preference. Both work fine in the recipe.
Right.
Has no
exactly. And as you had mentioned earlier, like if you wanted to use a different cheddar altogether, right? You can actually do that. So, but this is to show you how following our program on our MasterChef for the bread works really, really well. Baking is patience, because you do have to remember that there's sometimes several times proofing that you have to do. In this case, it proofed twice, so it was 1 hour when I turned it into the bowl, and then another hour when I put it into the baking loaves. And so that was 2 hours, and then it goes in. On the Italian bread, it was 1.5 hours when I actually proofed it in the oven. And then once I shaped it into the loaf, then I proofed it for another 20 minutes. At that point, you put it in, and you get that wonderful smell again of bread that's baking here for us.
So Chantel had a question. Chantel, welcome to the session with us. We're glad you're joining us. I guess the question is whether we needed to score the dough in the case of the jalapeno cheddar versus the Italian, which you did score a little bit.
No, with the jalapeno cheddar, you don't have to score it at all. You basically put it into the loaf pan and let it set, because it is that dense bread. With the Italian bread, it's just, once you slice it, basically, it's also creating a little bit of air pockets going in for the moisture that's going in for the proofing. But you wouldn't have to do this on here. There's many breads that you don't have to score. Again, it depends on the style, the variety, like baguettes. You definitely would like to score those as well, because you need that heat to escape a little bit too on the inside.
So Lily has a question. We have a lot of questions. I'm not sure we're going to get to them all. We're going to try to. Lily has a question, which is a funny one and a good one. So clearly the oven says, "Don't open the door." I see it right here.
Yes, yes.
With an exclamation mark.
Yes.
So Lily says, "Will it say when the door can be opened?"
Yes, Lily, that's a good question. Yes, because you want to think I want to get to my bread, so I don't want it to show that. But once it completes the cooking cycle in here, then it's going to beep to say complete, and then you'll be able to. It'll say program finished. That's what will be on there, and then you can take it out. I don't normally let it sit in there at all. I hear the beep. I want to have that bread come out.
Because you need it to rest too, and you don't want it to,
exactly.
to overbake either.
And then that's it. Okay.
So Anna has a question. Second question, do you recommend using a burst of moisture when making bread if you're not using MasterChef Plus?
Yes, definitely. The beauty about having the MasterChef Plus is because it's automated to know how much moisture is going in for the proofing as well. It's doing that. But if it's a traditional oven where sometimes you don't have that, the M-Touch oven with the water actually is connected in there. So let's just say if it's our Sensotronic oven, you can actually put a pan in there with just some,
Yeah, we actually put ice cubes.
Yes, you put that in there.
Ours.
Because as the ice cubes are melting, it's actually now heating up as well, and it's putting that moisture into the bread. So yes, and that is what also creates the crust around the bread. So having that there, it's great because it's working with the temperature, with the heat, and then that steam that's going around it.
Well, and I think that's, Marilyn, one of the huge benefits of some of the recipes we've developed for the bread is, when to actually inject the steam, so we don't have Moisture Plus at home. We use the ice cube tray method.
Yes.
The challenge there is when the moisture gets released during the baking process. But really with the MasterChef Plus bread programs, we've taken that guessing game out of it.
Completely out of it.
Because it's been programmed, and we've obviously, with our research and development chefs, developed the perfect results.
Yes.
Where we know when in the baking process do you actually inject the steam into the oven.
Absolutely.
And everybody loves crusty bread.
Yes,
so,
exactly.
I
mean, once you start baking, especially right now with everyone being at home, I'm sure it's you guys that are buying the bread flour there to do your baking. But once you start, it's like there's nothing better than just having homemade bread really coming out of the oven.
Well, and the kids can get involved in the process of kneading the dough, and there is a science behind baking and measuring. So it's a good way to get the kids to practice math and understand science, and they get fed out of it.
Yes,
so it's
exactly.
a good thing.
So I just want to just see for a second. Okay, so what I wanted to just say is that now with the Italian bread, the proofing is complete, and now it's giving you the same sign saying, "Do not open the door." Okay, so now it's starting there, and it doesn't want any of that heat and moisture to escape.
So we're going to try to take a couple more questions because there's a lot more, and we're going to run out of time soon. So again, we're going to try to get to everything. George and Susan have a question. So thanks for joining us, George and Susan, today. Which MasterChef Plus program should we use to make challah, braided egg bread?
Which MasterChef program? Well, if you have the MasterChef Plus, then there is an actual program that is for the challah bread that's in there with a recipe again that we could send. I'm not sure if who was on that? Was that
George and Susan?
Whether is it just strictly for the 30-inch oven, or
so they have the MasterChef Plus program, so that would that would be for
our 30-inch oven.
Yeah,
that's fine. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's actually a program in there specifically for challah. If you search that, if you can't find it, again, let us know. We will try to get that back to you.
Yeah, exactly.
As soon as possible. Let's see what other programs we have. So we have Martin. Martin, thanks for joining us. Do those programs only work with recipes in the oven manual or any recipe of that bread type?
It can work with any recipe. The only thing is that if you, let's just say, have one of our M-Touch ovens with the M Plus program, and for example, the Italian bread says 55 minutes. If your recipe is saying an hour and 25, that's what you have to watch for, because that's what you're going to program it now into your oven. If you have the MasterChef Plus or without it.
Right, so the MasterChef Plus, to be honest, has been developed specifically for our recipes that we actually give you. You can develop your own programs, and that's the beauty of these ovens is for your programs, you can actually set your own settings and create that. But if you really are using our MasterChef Plus programs, to answer your question, yes, those are actually based specifically for the recipes that you have.
Yep.
Okay, one last set of questions, and unfortunately our time will run short, but it seems like, Marilyn, we're going to have to ask you to return to do more bread baking, because it seems like a very, very popular topic. So Lily, we're going to come back to you. I'm not sure we're going to get to all your questions, but we're going to try to answer a couple before we sign off for the night. Does the size or number of bread loaves matter in the program, Marilyn?
No, I could actually, with this one here, because of the recipe, I knew I was going to have 2 loaves of bread there, but if you wanted to, you could actually put 2 racks on there. You just have to see where you're going to fit it as well, because you want that air circulation to go around. So if we're following our program with our recipes, I'm going to say use the one shelving, because that's what it's actually saying to you, put it on shelf 2. If it's smaller loaves, you would probably be able to put another shelf that's in there.
Okay. And then Lily, we'll try to get to one more of your questions. You have a list, but unfortunately we're going to run out of time. But again, we'll be sure to post the answers for you in the comment section, or we will email you the answers. So the other question you have is, how long is the proofing phase in the MasterChef Plus program?
Okay, in the MasterChef Plus program, if we're doing the final stages where now the Italian bread went in, it can take anywhere from, it could be 10 minutes.
But it changes by recipe.
But it changes by recipe again, yes. And that's why when it was, this started actually, it was at 49 minutes. And then when it changed it, and when I looked at it, I was down to about 29 minutes. So it kind of went, it did the proofing that it wanted to at that point, and then knew to just start the baking process. So it will vary recipe to recipe.
And really the best way to do it is just play a little bit more with the MasterChef Plus programs.
Yes.
And you'll be able to see for the different recipes.
Exactly.
How that gets covered. Okay.
Well, I hope that with what they've seen as well, that you can make amazing bread as well.
I'm going to throw one more question.
Sure.
So Barbara, thank you for joining us. We're going to try to get to your question as the very last question for today. After using the MasterChef Plus for bread, do I need to get rid of excess steam?
After using, no, because what you're going to notice is that when the program is finished, there really isn't any steam that's in there now.
Right.
Once you open it up, it's almost like it's shut down the steam. Now it's going to be crisping the bread on the outside to make that dough, the bread on it, crusty as well.
Yeah.
So there isn't anything.
Because again, I think when using the MasterChef Plus, the benefit of this is it's injecting steam at a certain point in the baking process, and by the time you're actually done, it's injected the right amount that actually has been absorbed in the program itself. So you will see no residual steam. It's not like the steam oven or the DGC.
Yes, exactly.
Our combi steam oven, it's very different. These programs have been tested by our R&D chefs, so you will have no residual.
None at all.
Yeah, it's actually done its job and been absorbed in the oven itself to create that lovely crust.
Mm-hmm, exactly.
Thanks, Marilyn.
You're welcome. It's great showing what we can do.
Yeah, that was a much longer session. But, so I'm going to try to wrap up very quickly to cover off a couple of different topics. Some of you had questions on maintenance. Again, right now, for those of you watching with us, if you go on the Miele shop on miele.ca, and you type in as the promotional code upon checkout bread10, so bread and then the number 10. I have that over here. I'll bring that over here. There we go. It's much easier that way. Bread 10. What you will get is an additional 10% off the already existing 10% promotion that we're offering right now on Miele Care products. So again, upon checkout, if you go and type in bread 10, you will get an additional 10% off. So that's exclusive for you for the next hour up until 6 p.m., 6:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And that's also, remember, free shipping for you. Since we're on the topic of cooking, Marilyn and I will be back next week, because what we're really excited about is we've put the challenge out to you. As many of you are at home, not just you, but the children are at home. We want to challenge you to challenge us to share your favorite home lunches right now. And we want you to post those on Twitter or Facebook, tag us, and we will come up with a healthier or a new version of that, your favorite lunch at home. So be sure to do that. We're going to be up for the challenge, and Marilyn and I will be back to see what we can do.
Yes, absolutely.
To come up with healthy at-home lunches for you. So be sure to take advantage of that. Go ahead on Facebook and Twitter, post your favorite at-home lunch, and we'll see what we can come back with next week for that. So that's happening as well. Again, if you're interested in looking at purchasing a new appliance from us, there are multiple ways you can do that. Miele.ca, our online shop, is available 24/7. Be sure also to look at Miele.ca and look at our retail partners. If you go to our retailer locator, many of our partners are actually still open. They may have different operating processes right now. Be sure to look at them and contact them for more information to buy Miele appliances. You can also take advantage of our personal product consultations, where you can, by telephone, speak to one of our product experts who can answer any final questions you have. They can also take your order online. In addition to that, later next week, we will introduce something very different, where you will be able to book a virtual two-way video one-on-one consultation with one of our sales consultants, where they will be able to talk to you standing in front of the product that you're interested in buying, answer any questions you have, and they will actually be able to take your order during that consultation process. So be sure to look out for that on mielelive.ca. You can actually go ahead and book your appointment there. It's a really exciting service we're interested in bringing to you, that you've expressed interest in having from us. So again, we want to really thank you for joining us. Be sure to look at Miele Live for future sessions next week and the weeks to come. We look for suggestions from you. On behalf of Marilyn, myself, the entire Miele family, we want to send a very last thank you out to all the frontline workers, essential workers that are out there, ensuring that those Canadians that need medical services are getting it. For all of us that require groceries, food deliveries, public transportation, all of you guys are out there braving that for us, and honestly, we want to send our sincere gratitude for your continued hard work to support us. Again, thank you very much. Be sure to turn on your subscription on your YouTube channel to get the latest information from us about the latest videos. We have new videos on maintenance that we've posted, so for those that are Miele owners, be sure to go on to our YouTube channel to see the new videos we have out there. We want to wish all of you an amazing weekend, to enjoy the time with your family, take the time at home, and we'll see you again at Miele Live next Wednesday at, I forgot what the first session is,
at 1 o'clock.
1 o'clock. But go online on Miele Live to register for the next sessions. Have a great weekend. Thank you, and be safe.